something that actually I was very curious to hear about is sort of your idea of how much the FF Plus can grow this election, if it will, to what extent. And so what I'd like to know, especially now that you've mentioned that you've helped to set up this branch in Nelson Mandela Bay, is do you know what sort of new voters the FF Plus will be targeting, or perhaps you will be targeting in your branch? Like, what is their sort of profile? Where do they live?
Mm. So the target that I've got, look, there's obviously different individuals that's going to focus on different areas. I know that there's also a big push for colored support, and there's a lot of colored branches that's been established, specifically in the northern areas in Nelson Mandela Bay. The Freedom Front Plus is aiming to get minorities. Now, minorities, when you think about it, you think white people, colored people, and Indian people. But what you don't think of is minorities within the black culture as well. I mean, you've got subcultures there. I mean, based on language. So you've got the Sotho that you can approach because they are a minority within, the black populace in South Africa. But ultimately, my goal and what I'm aiming for is to make people aware of the fact that the Freedom Front Plus is not a party for Afrikaans people only. It's a party for anyone that espouses or believes, at least to some extent, in some conservative values. So if you believe, in a higher being, that there, is a God, that is one of the aspects. South Africa is a 85% Christian country. I think it's one of the highest in the world. And if you are religious, if you are Christian, then you do fundamentally already believe in conservative values because it's part of the Bible and that is what the Bible espouses. But then, even if you're not religious, if you want to keep religion out of it, then if you believe in your freedoms that you have, if you believe that you need to be a patriotic South African, not for the government, but, you must be proud of your country. If you're a Springbok supporter, Bafana supporter, by the way, congratulations on reaching the World Cup. And also the Proteas. If you're proud of your country and how beautiful it is, then that is a conservative value. If you enjoy your freedoms, that's a conservative value. And if you consider the family unit as a fundamental unit as to who and what you are and what you become, then you are conservative. And that is what I want to achieve. So firstly, make conservatism cool again, because mainstream media and the woke left has driven this narrative that if you are conservative, you are racist or you are bigoted or you're closed-minded. I mean, it's completely a false narrative that's been created.
Right.
But also to reach out to the Afrikaner English sort of family, Afrikaans husband and an English wife, or an English husband and an Afrikaans wife, to reach that family that has predominantly just voted for the DA because, everybody tells them to vote for the DA, not really understanding why they should vote for the DA. So I'm going to reach out to those individuals and say, the Freedom Front Plus is not just for Afrikaans people. It's not just for religious people. It's not just for, this and that and this and that. So it's pretty much just an awareness campaign as to who the Freedom Front Plus is. And the goal for me is to at least double the support in Nelson Mandela Bay. And I think that's a easy, achievable goal if you just communicate with people and tell them who and what you are.
Right. What sort of support levels are there at the moment in your area?
So in Nelson Mandela Bay, there's currently 2 councillors for the Freedom Front Plus. I think there's 120 councillors in total, and the Eastern Cape is not really kind to the Freedom Front Plus. But then again,
Right.
The Eastern Cape's not really friendly to any, I would say, liberal or, center right or center left organizations. It's
Or
very much,
anyone who's not the ANC, let's be honest.
exactly. Exactly. The ANC, I think the stronghold that they have is the Eastern Cape and KwaZulu-Natal. But I think that realistically, we could look at getting to, 6 to 8 Freedom Front Plus councillors, which then would mean that they will play a critical part in a coalition in Nelson Mandela Bay. And a lot of people will say, but why should we worry about, this then if we can just vote for the DA and get an outright majority? Well, firstly, the DA is not going to get an outright majority because they are being attacked from two fronts. They're being attacked with their colored support through the PA. And the DA relies quite heavily on the coloured support in Nelson Mandela Bay. We know in Cape Town they're going to get massacred. I think they are going to lose at least 30 to 40% of their coloured support to the Patriotic Alliance because they at the moment on a high and they're using, coloured identity to reach people. Whereas also previously the DA just took for granted that they'll get some portion of the coloured support. So I think that is a big thing that is going to count against them. And then of course, if you look at what happened, I think it was 2019, if I'm not mistaken, with Schweizer-Reinicke. That was one incident that caused at least a 1.5% drop for the DA towards the Freedom Front Plus. Now, if we just look at the
Right.
last year and a bit, you can see that there's been a couple of Schweizer-Reinickes, to that extent that's taken place. It's their stance on expropriation without compensation. It's their stance on the Bella Act. It's their stance on multiple things. So I think that they are also going to bleed a lot of Afrikaans and Afrikaans English support. So the point that I'm leading to is that people that think they should just vote for the DA because it can be the biggest party, the question I've got to you is, considering that coalition politics is the future of South Africa, do you not want a conservative voice at the table, considering what we've seen, how the ANC and DA can agree on things that is bad for this country, like NHI, like the EWC bill, like the Bella bill and the Bella Act, sorry, all of these things that are law now. I would rather want a conservative voice there to represent people that are conservative in this country.
Right. And it's an interesting situation because if we look at the by-election results and how they've unfolded, those of you who subscribe to me already will have known quite a lot of the videos I've done on this. But we actually do see that trend, like you said, Ronaldo, where basically in a lot of the very urban, affluent areas, the DA seems to be holding on all right for now. But as soon as you look at the urban periphery, as soon as you look not only in Cape Town, not only in the Western Cape, but even Northern Cape and even the western parts of the Eastern Cape, we've seen this massive push towards the Patriotic Alliance. And I mean, that party seems to be getting DA votes and ANC votes. So they're definitely a threat, as you pointed out. And I do give the DA credit for simply being able to almost grow in other ways, where basically in certain areas such as eMalahleni, eThekwini, certain places, they do seem to be drawing in some black voters. But you also have to ask yourself then, what is the consequence of basically losing voters, but then gaining other voters? And it just seems, and again, this isn't a prediction on my part, but it seems as if there's like a sort of voter replacement taking place, right? Where, yes, they're going to lose those conservative colored and Afrikaans and maybe even English voters, and they're replacing them with sort of former ANC voters. And you have to ask, how is that going to shift the party, right? And we've already seen this shift.
Yeah, exactly. We both said
maybe that's why
thing.
the people are voting for them. All the guys in eMalahleni are like, oh damn, this is like the ANC, but they keep the streets clean. Let's do it.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So
yeah,
it's important what you said, because look, I think that there are definitely going to be considerably more black people that will vote for the DA. But are they voting for the DA because the DA is a liberal organization, or are they voting for them because they are going to change them into a communist organization? An example of this is in Cape Town, where an EFF councillor literally resigned from her party the one day, and the very next day was a councillor for the DA in the same municipality. And that is the question that I always ask is, will you be able to go from a full Christian to a Muslim overnight? And majority of people will say, no, that's impossible. So in the same way, I'm asking, how can you go from a communist to a liberal overnight. You can't do it. And what the DA is not realizing, and listen, I'm not here to defend the DA. I'm not here to bat for the DA. I'm not here to give the DA advice. But I think it's quite obvious for everybody to see that if you proclaim to be a liberal party, but you are getting a lot more communists and socialists in your party, eventually you are going to turn into that when you have your congresses and when people have to vote for their leaders. So, you know, that is what I'm seeing. And it's concerning, but it's not my issue anymore. You know, this is something that they will have to fight eventually down the line.